And then there were two. But before I describe who the two are, I have to break down a semifinal recap, what had happened, what went right, what went wrong. I'll break it down for you. I went 1 for 1 on my semifinal picks, although I recording it, you would felt like I went undefeated because I was very, very nervous for one team and my gut was correct, although it was not the outcome. How it happened was not what I thought was going to happen. For a semifinal matchup, I got, again, two heavily favored teams going in it that were the clear favorites against two underdogs. You had one underdog make it, and the other one put up a valiant effort, but at the end, he did not have enough firepower to defeat the one, the only, the vintage one. You heard it here first. Not just kidding, but we all know. So I want to go over the Harsh versus David Sutton matchup. Now, the one guy, if I feel like regular season spot starts with David don't really make me nervous that much because I think he's playing with fire at some circumstances based on his track record. Playoff spot start David scares the living hell out of me, especially when it's a whole bunch of deep threats. Now, let me kind of explain what had happened. Granted, you could call it hindsight, I don't care. But as far as this matchup was concerned, I had explained on my matchup that I felt like Harsh's four wide receivers that he was starting, I think at one point, or the four guys that were in starting role, like the three elite wide receivers that he has, and Jeff Wilson at the time, I just felt like those guys, if they hit, were just going to be so much better than the David guys if they hit. So the only thing that made me nervous on a matchup perspective was the quarterback spot, Patrick Mahomes. Now, when the reports in LA told you guys that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen might have been kind of limited, and I saw Tyron Johnson got picked up, I said to myself, this is deja vu David 2016 again with J.J. Nelson, as you recall, and Taylor Gabriel, which hit 2 out of the 3 weeks. They obviously laid up duds in the finals, which made David lost that year. But I was starting to get deja vu. I said, this is a very, very competitive team. So when we break it down, I was honestly shocked that Tyron Johnson did not get the starting nod, even with them being kind of limited, because at that point in a short week, first of all, Mike Williams, okay, this guy shouldn't even be mentioned in injury reports anymore. The guy is a clear-cut bust, can't stay healthy, and I understand when guys can't stay healthy, it's not a bust. The guy just doesn't do anything. He's literally, which is, I think, Harsh, you drafted him 3 or 4 years ago, and I said, the only thing I see on film is he's just a jump ball receiver. And now we're 4 years into it, I still see just a jump ball receiver. He's not that good of a wide receiver, guys. Wasted talent, I think. But, okay, so I honestly thought Tyron Johnson was going to still get the nod, and you were going to go Aguilar, Tyron Johnson. Aguilar could have had probably a better game if Carr was in there. But the magical thing that happened on Thursday night was Marcus Mariota comes in after Carr. Marcus Mariota, for whatever reason, can only throw accurate passes to tight ends. He can't throw it to wide receivers. Me being a Corey Davis truther, I know all about it. He was fucking awful throwing it to him. Let's not forget what he was with Delaney Walker. And then, the one other dude, Lewis had him 1 year. That's drawing a blank. He was terrible, though. He had one good year, and that was it. Rashard something. Not Higgins. The guy who was on the Dolphins who then went to the Titans. Forgot that guy's name, but he was good with Mariota 1 year because he was good off a play act. I don't remember. But Marcus Mariota doesn't have a good, he's not accurate outside the numbers to receivers. That's just been his Achilles heel. It really has. But he loves him some tight ends, man. He loves the middle of the field. He's accurate over the middle, just not great outside the marks. And that's what you really saw. And I think utilizing Waller, the guy is a clear-cut mismatch, and that gave him a serviceable advantage. Then I think we started to pump the brakes when Devontae Adams only got 7 points. I think people started, myself included, I was a little bit nervous. I said, I'm getting deja vu all over again. When I looked at how the matchup was kind of broken down, Jonathan Taylor, I thought was going to be the clear-cut, you know what? This is the guy that's going to just cancel out David's running backs. When I recorded at the time, I saw reports that Ronald Jones was still going to play with the surgery, but then I guess when the surgery was expected, he tested positive for COVID, therefore no surgery, I guess. I don't know. Fournette, even if I would have been down on him because he looked so bad, but he fell into the end zone twice. He did his best Todd Gurley impersonation, if you will. So that really, made the running back spot even. And as I'm watching this game, because I'm seeing what's going on the other end of the world, I'm starting to think to myself, I was prepared. In my mind, I said, it's 2020. I'm prepared for a harsh ring. I am not prepared for 3-ring David. I honestly probably would have gotten, how competitive I am. I would have been fuming. Honestly, would have been fuming if David was to pull some what out. And then I think Johnny and Harsh, yep, you are absolutely correct. He probably would go down as one of the most fortunate, lucky, whatever you want to call managers of all time. I get it. That's fine. Then, honestly, I think there was one point where A.J. Brown just didn't do anything and Jeff Wilson did not score in the end zone. And then I think within 5 minutes they both scored. So it gave Harsh a serviceable lead. And then it was kind of up to David had Watkins going and the Arizona boys. After Seattle got him 14, which was really nice, Tampa Bay let you down. And then it came down to Jalen Hurts and Tyreek Hill. Bottom line is this, because I think you put up 151. And I'll say it once I go down to the breakdown. We have witnessed on the same team the best regular season pickup of the year, and we've also witnessed the best playoff pickup of the year. Best regular season pickup of the year, James Robinson, owner, Harsh. Best playoff pickup of the year, Jalen Hurts, owner, Harsh. For whatever reason, this kid's team, a lot of people weren't buying into the Harsh thing, and I try to tell people when I had him high up in my rankings, Harsh was putting up serviceable 110 to 120 numbers without a quarterback and without a healthy Debo, without a healthy A.J. Brown, and Harsh running back situation just kind of up in the air because Jonathan Taylor had probably a really bad October through November. And I said to myself, this team's not healthy yet. I said, that, again, which is why I was never down on Allen's team to begin with. I said, let me see a full arsenal first before I go and jump to conclusions, right? But it still felt like that quarterback position kept Harsh's upside all the way down to 120 to 130, even with these amount of weapons at the receiver position. He finally figured it out. Thank God he didn't go to it. And I honestly was shocked because I know your management and people can say what they want about you. Very, very shocked that you did not pull in Jared Goff against the Jets, and that was a good move. Jalen Hurts, you got it right. In a shootout, up-pace atmosphere, I always say this if you listen to my podcast, I always want people starting against the Arizona Cardinals because with their up-pace, up-tempo type of offense, I always over-project everybody else who's going up against them. I give them 5 free bingo points because they're going to get an extra drive in there somewhere around in the game. Like, time of possession is just, it's hilarious just looking at it at the end of the game. So, Jalen Hurts, man. Jalen Hurts and James Robinson are reasons why this team is where it is right now. We can talk about the greatest stack that he had between Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams. Well, one of those guys flopped. This does not get accomplished without an RB1 all season, and now you're looking at a clear-cut quarterback one. Granted, 2-game sample size. I think his numbers are not going to be 43 points this week. When I look at Jalen Hurts, they're not asking him to do a lot, but for fantasy, and it's weird because I didn't see him that much as this guy who was taking off and running. But this guy's extending drives. He's still mechanically, I'm still a little not sold from a real life perspective. For fantasy, give me all the Jalen Hurts in the world. Him putting up 43 outscoring Mahomes just sealed. It was the final nail in the coffin. Job well done. Where I was going with that. Even though Hopkins was looking like a beast, man, Hurts every drive was keeping pace with Hopkins, and this is phenomenal because this is the best playoff pickup. And I honestly think Jalen Hurts does not get picked up in this matchup. I think he loses because if I take away 43 from 150, you're in the 110 spot. Jalen Hurts, okay, Harsh, this is what I tell you, dude. If you want to win in this thing, I'm buying myself a Jalen Hurts jersey. I always love to give back to players because I love football. But let's go down to the most insane matchup that I could ever kind of picture here. So the bottom line is this. Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones combined for 45 apiece, which is kind of average. I think that's what they're supposed to do because we've seen this year, as long as Devontae Adams is there, Jones's upside is capped. Aaron Rodgers will go up. So it's kind of, it's not my ideal build, but I did feel like Cole Beasley matched up very well with Stephon Diggs. Only 5 points less than Stephon Diggs. That was key. If you watch that Denver Bronco game, Stephon Diggs, I felt like at one point, I thought Paul had like 27 points. Every time I watched, I was like, this guy is catching everything. He's getting open. And Beasley didn't come on really until late in the third quarter, to be honest. It's unbelievable that happened. And what I was worried about, and this is why I pulled back, talent-wise, I think Paul's team was a little bit more talented. Matchup-wise, I did not like it going into this matchup. And Paul, this is now, you've been bitten by these stacks in the playoffs. You had Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown the last time you were in the playoffs, cost you based on a bad matchup. And now the Seahawks, I told you against that Washington football defense, their secondary is no joke and their front is no joke. Seattle couldn't move the ball at all. It was 1 o'clock. I said to myself, now, this was a total bust performance on all those guys. Wow. I did not expect it to be this bad, but am I surprised? Absolutely not. This Seattle Seahawks offense, the running backs are getting healthier. The receivers are not healthy. They are not healthy. And I talked about Tyler Lockett a little bit when I did that breakdown. That's number one what cost Paul in this matchup. But the move of the century has to be this luckiest. I don't know what you do ritual-wise, BMagic. I don't know much about you. But when Zeke Elliott gets ruled out and you put in Carlos Hyde with Rashard Penny coming back in and he breaks off a 50-yard touchdown run, my goodness, are you absolutely kidding me? This kid's got to have the magic touch. I don't know what the hell I would do in that matchup. That wasn't even a good matchup. The Zeke injury might have been a blessing in disguise to force him to play Carlos Hyde because Zeke Elliott hasn't looked that great this year. I'm speechless. Now, at one point, Deontay Johnson, Paul, I think the other thing where I told you where you're going to get killed on was those last two flexes. Now, the guys that I recommended in particular, okay, probably wouldn't be the situation because I felt like Godwin was the guy you couldn't bench, but he wasn't going to win you the game. Godwin's a guy you plug in to play not to lose the game, right? He has no upside with Antonio. Like, that offense sucks for fantasy. It's great. Well, I don't even know if it's great for real life. But I told you, I said, honestly, Deontay scared me a little bit. You would probably have to figure out between Kute against the Colts that goes really well. And then the other one was Marvin Jones. I felt like Jones had the most upside out of all your receivers if Matt Stafford was playing because of the Titans. I am not faulting you for not putting in Marvin Jones. But I think you were very comfortable based on what BMagic's stack did Saturday. If at all you felt like he put up a great performance, I probably would have leaned towards Marvin Jones and Kiki Kute. You can call it hindsight, but if you're managing and you say, oh, wow, BMagic's team just put up this amount of points on me, I've got to swing for the fences, I could understand. Marvin Jones would have been he had the most upside with Stafford. It was just when I recorded it, we didn't know about Chase Daniel. And plus, it's a thumb and a rib injury. So one shot to Stafford, he could have been done. I can't fault Paul's management here. Again, this is not on Paul. I know everybody likes to throw shade at Paul. I get it. But, this was matchup-wise, you can say you plugged in the wrong guys. I get that. But Carlos Hyde touchdown, and I think the biggest slap in the face had to have been the CeeDee Lamb touchdown. First of all, I didn't even know Dallas defense was owned. BMagic, why in hell is Dallas defense even owned? And that onside kick return for a touchdown also put you up on the board. That's insane. And Deontay almost came back, which was scary at one point. And I guess I turned off the game because that game was boring. And I said, let me just wake up and figure out who won. And at the end of the day, BMagic is still standing. This is absolutely, I'm speechless. It is 2020, so I am not surprised that two people coming into the season were unlikely to go this far, although one of them I've had respect for. So now we're on to BMagic and Vintage Harsh. So this is kind of a segment before I build onto the hype of the actual season, right? So I want to start talking about why, in particular, these two teams wind up making it to the playoffs, right? Like, why are they in this position? Why, in God's name, are they in this position? So I'm going to start with a guy definitely faded the public on the perception of this man. And I've done this, I'm telling you right now, I have done this probably since his second year. First year, things were a little bit cloudy, but second year in our league together, I saw the way he drafted, and am I surprised that this kid is in a Super Bowl? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm talking in general, not just with the team that he has this year. The way you win fantasy football in redraft leagues is you go for the guys that are projected or look like they are about to have a huge season. A huge season. In other words, I am under the philosophy, shoot for upside. I don't give a crap about floor. Now, here's where I push back on that philosophy a little bit, right? The only way I'm pushing back on that philosophy, you don't want every pick to be a home run pick. There are certain strategies that do acquire for that to happen, such as zero RB or the new, modified zero RB, which is what I went this year, which I guess the terminology for that would be just one running back within the first 6 picks, I guess. I don't even know if there's like a definition specifically. Anyway, zero RB teams offer the most upside out of any single team that you could draft, which is why it is still popular. However, it is the most risky strategy. It's a reason why Allen does not have a lot of playoff appearances. Okay, I think we all know that. We all can kind of reflect back on what Allen has done and obviously say to ourselves, yeah, I see what this kid does. I'm out. But if you put the right guys in the right situations, which is why I feel like the modified version is just a tad bit better to offer a lot of upside. I've seen Harsh kind of throughout the years when he goes into a draft. I've seen him do so many crazy things. He was actually, even before Allen, if I can remember, he was the first one to implement a zero RB drafted team. And it didn't work out because his running backs didn't hit. That's the thing. If you don't get one of your running backs to start for you, you're done. Because I think we've seen this and looking at the teams that made the playoffs, looking at the teams that did not make the playoffs, if you don't have a substantial RB1 or at least 2 RB2s, your team is kind of behind the 8 ball. It is. If you don't have a workhorse guy or you have guys that are just volume dependent, plug and play, the running back position is always a safe pick because it gives you an established floor. So when Harsh went zero RB, he wound up, shooting himself in the foot because he took Nile Davis. Process was there. The logic was there. It's just that Charkandrick West wound up becoming the backup, and that's when he went on his tangent about Andy Reid. When you have the guy, who's the next man up, and they get that next man up with a zero RB team, and it happens early on in the season, things are going right for you. So Harsh said, "F that," like, what the fuck? Like, this did not work out. Because if you don't get those running backs, this team's not going anywhere. And believe it or not, he was actually the first one to establish zero wide receiver. Now, this strategy works out very good in redraft. I think it's the most safest position. I always call this the insane David strategy. For those of you who have known the way David likes to draft, it didn't happen this year because you have to accept there's parts where you're drafting at a certain position, you can't go a certain strategy, such as what I had to do in David and Allen. But zero wide receiver is the opposite. You stack up on running backs very early and you don't take receivers. The problem is, in my opinion, I think the running backs give you great floor, but I feel like receivers tend to win you weeks if they hit, and I feel like running backs, they can hit, obviously, but you're establishing that floor. And I think the more and more it became a pass-first league, that strategy is kind of dying down a little bit because not every team has a deep threat that is kind of predictable. I think zero wide receiver was cool and all when you had the Santana Mosses of the world that were always in that 4th, 5th round range. Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin's, like that usually works. You can get away with going 3 to 4 running backs and then hitting your receivers rounds 5 through 8. Usually that's a decent recipe for success. But the more and more we do our rankings, our strategies, you're starting to see that a lot of the rookies are getting pushed up into round 3 and round 4. if they're healthy, obviously. So the way the consensus ADP is starting to transition itself is making that strategy a little bit more risque, if you will. And that you're tending, that strategy, while it does give you an established floor, the thing that sucks is you're always going to wind up with one or two of those running backs that's just an old guy just waiting to get cut or just waiting to lose his job. And we're seeing that time and time again this year, right? So bottom line is, Harsh has always been a guy, let me go upside first, and I'm going to swing for the fences. I'm going to get the guys who look like they are going to break out. He's an ageist. He does not like veterans. I don't like veterans, so I agree with a lot of the things that he does. The only difference between me and him is that I feel like he goes a little bit overboard in the draft with it, where we always say, oh, that's a typical Harsh pick. And I'm behind. I love Harsh picks because I'm behind the process of taking those guys. So how Harsh got here is he swings for the upside. But if you recall, the best zero running back teams, or if you want to even include the word modified, have been this Harsh team here and my team back in 2016. But what happened and why are these teams kind of similar? My team in 2016, I didn't take a running back until I took Melvin Gordon in the 7th round, and I took Bilal Powell in the 6th. Melvin Gordon became an RB1 that year, and my receivers were all low-end 2s to high-end 1s. That's already a recipe for success. The only thing is you needed Melvin Gordon to get a workload. Woodhead went down. If Woodhead doesn't go down, I don't know if Melvin Gordon becomes a workhorse type of a back, especially that year. What happens this year? So Harsh is starting running backs when he drafted were Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss. Zach Moss, I was drinking the Kool-Aid too, Harsh, so I can't fault you for that. Jonathan Taylor, I was a little bit nervous about because of the Marlon Mack situation. Well, Marlon Mack gets hurt week 1, number 1. Ding, that's already his recipe for success. The problem with Jonathan Taylor, though, however, was that he was freaking awful in the month of October through November. And at one point, people were starting to sell their dynasty shares of this guy. So what went right for Harsh? Bottom line is this. James Robinson went right for Harsh. If you go 0 RB, the only thing that makes it, I don't want to say easy, but you don't have to make that tough decision call is anytime you get a running back, just plug and play. You'll know which guys are going to be starting. So again, that's my biggest regret, even though my team probably wouldn't have been that any good. But my regret, Allen's regret, and Harsh's regret, we were the 3 teams that had the biggest running back question marks, and Harsh was the only one who hopped on James Robinson. Keep in mind, he hopped on this before Ozigbo was ruled out or was not ruled the starter, because when Fournette got traded, Ozigbo started getting the hype up. Always go for the guy next up. If you're starting to see, look at the way his roster is now built. It's a championship roster. And I talked to him through text messages. Your championship roster should just be filled with handcuffs. Because the one thing you don't want if you're a 0 RB team or you're stacked on receivers, don't pick up receivers. You don't need them. You're never think to yourself, when am I ever going to start this guy? You want those running back handcuffs for solid matchups. Or, I'm going to pick this guy up because if a guy gets hurt, I don't want to lose because somebody picked him up off of waivers. That's how you build a championship roster. If James Robinson does not get picked up, okay, I'm fully endorsing this because I love Harsh. I've been behind him 100%. If Harsh does not make that pickup of James Robinson this year, this team, in my personal opinion, I don't think gets that far. And why am I saying that? Harsh is like Allen. Harsh is very stubborn. James Robinson doesn't get picked up. This kid is starting Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss all season. And at one point, Jonathan Taylor's points were like absolutely atrocious. Like he was not delivering expectations. Harsh would probably be stubborn and then would have to like keep those guys in or wait for an injury to happen. Running back situation would have been a pain to figure out. But because he had a guy getting RB1 volume in James Robinson, he made his say, okay, I'm just going to play without my running back too. If I can get 8 points and Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill hit, I'm set. James Robinson by far is the MVP of this team because of the way it helps the roster get constructed. You knew what you were getting out of Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown was hurt. I get that. Debo got hurt. But James Robinson is what makes this roster go. It's what gave him an established floor and sprinkled upside. So when you're telling me that you have Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, as the 2 popular picks to stack back-to-back at the receivers at the turn, and then you go ahead and get yourself a James Robinson who's getting RB1 volume, this should have been game, set, and match a long time ago. He just dealt with some injuries, and for whatever reason, I don't even remember what quarterbacks he was starting in the beginning of the year. He just could not. By the way, and speaking of which, Aaron Rodgers, he also had him. Could you imagine if this team had Aaron Rodgers in the beginning of the year? Like, this kid does put himself in bad spots, but, I agree with how he drafts and the philosophy, so I'm not surprised it's here. But I have to admit this, and, not sugarcoating this at any way. BMagic, I'm you probably are, I don't know, but I've got to be shocked that you made it this far. First of all, you were probably in the toughest division, and you were the underdog the whole year, and you won the division, albeit luck. Okay, I am not going to stay here and say, BMagic, had a great roster, but I want to reflect on what happened to his roster, and some things raised a lot of eyebrows. Okay, week number 3, Aaron Rodgers. He wants to acquire Aaron Rodgers and Russell Gage, who was a clear sell high in the Falcons offense, and Tyler Higbee, because he wanted a tight end after Tyler Higbee was a clear sell high after one good game against the Eagles. He gets rid of Mostert, and that I'm not even that raising eyebrows because he's hurt. And by the way, he's hurt again, so it's fine. Adam Thielen, though, man, getting rid of a possession skill receiver, little iffy. But now that I'm looking at how bad quarterbacks were, I don't know who BMagic's quarterback could have been if he doesn't do Aaron Rodgers. So in hindsight, that trade worked out for him. It really, really did. Because the quarterback position is not as stacked as we all think it is. And then there was another deal with Rob Coffey, which at the time, albeit at the time, I think Keenan Allen was on some ridiculous pace. And he wound up getting Calvin Ridley, Phillip Lindsay, Gallup, I think, was involved in that deal. I don't even remember. Or CeeDee Lamb, which at that point with Andy Dalton or whoever was throwing, it doesn't matter. And you ship off Keenan Allen. I don't know if you had any other pieces in it, but it's funny because ever since that trade was made, now Calvin Ridley's looking legit again. He's looking like a number 1 wide receiver. And he's doing it without Julio Jones, which is impressing me a lot, and I'm starting to buy into him a little bit. But some under-the-radar pickups that have gotten him here have been Cole Beasley, number 1. Beasley without John Brown is a low-end wide receiver too, and I've never been a Cole Beasley guy, but he looks phenomenal. And the other move that I really like, which is the reason, honestly, Paul has nobody to blame for himself, was dropping Carlos Hyde. BMagic, look, maybe you were tracking the points. I don't know if you said to yourself, Carlos Hyde is not bad. But, when he was getting the opportunities, Chris Carson's health, still not, I don't know why Paul decided to drop him, to be honest. Maybe he thought that Seattle backfield was going to be a committee. He had Rashard Penny coming back. And bottom line is this, if you're a team with low depth at running back and you have one backfield you can rely on, you can't get rid of that whole backfield because your stock relies on it. And that's where he fucked up. So if you want to tell to Paul, okay, yeah, it is a management decision on Paul why he lost because he dropped Carlos Hyde. I can't argue that. I cannot argue that because that's what happened. And that's how we want it. BMagic, look, man, you've gotten a lot of lucky breaks, man. The guys that have stepped up, really, I think Aaron Jones has been okay. I like Beasley a lot. Calvin Ridley is starting to step up. But aside from that, man, like tight end, running back 2, and flex, to me is still underachieving. Like I'm not. Hilton's been okay, but I haven't been that big on the flexes. So this leads me to this point, and then I'll get into the match because I know you guys are dying. Listen to it. I find it funny how everything comes full circle. So we all knew that BMagic's trades were very questionable, and it's funny how the one guy who was very vocal in the chat about what he was doing was wrong is now facing him in the finals. Because I think everybody that I've talked to knows, this is a very questionable move. Is this guy okay? And Harsh just let him have it. He's let him have it. And now I think it's funny that everything kind of comes full circle. I'll be back with the matchup. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, all right. I gotta tell you guys all this. I'm gonna get into the preview of finally Super Bowl. Something's gotta give. Something's gotta give. Who is gonna be crowned first ever champion? Some stats, the first ever title. Some stats that I want to just, throw out. So BMagic on your side. You are now the fourth rookie to make it to a Super Bowl in the history of this league. If we're including Johnny's 1 year commissioner sighting or whatever you want to call it. We've had 4 rookies make it to the quote unquote Super Bowl. Tim Von Thune in 2009, Jerry Rappaport in 2010, Alan Williams in 2012, and now BMagic in 2020. Out of the 3 that have made it, 2 of them have actually won a ring. Interesting tidbit there. Here's my thing as somebody who's been a commissioner for this league, and I love the competitive nature of this league, and I think we're all, with the age of Twitter analytics and stats, like the term sleeper was cool 10 years ago, and now it's like everybody knows what's coming, right? I love how we bring in this rookie and he makes it. But at the same token, I don't know how Johnny sold you the league. Like, I don't know what he said about this league, but I do know that a lot of people hype this league up to a point where it gets extremely competitive. So I don't know about you. I don't know if you're modest. I know. Please don't be like the Rob Coffey way and be modest and just say it is what it is, or we'll see what happens. Because I need more shit talkers in the league. It's got to inflate your ego a little bit because you came into the Lions Den and you also did 2 moves that were very questionable. And then he goes up against a man who finally got past the roadblock, which he can never get past. And that, my friends, was a semifinal round. Harsh, you finally got the monkey off your back as far as the semifinal monkey, but you got one more monkey, and that's your first ever championship title. Boys, am I surprised that these 2 teams have made it? Well, one of them I'm absolutely shocked. I thought it was a clear one and done. The other side, absolutely not. I am not shocked whatsoever because I know I sound like a broken record, but I have to say it because I've been your number one supporter coming into as far as other managers, as far as who's going to be next up to win that next ring. I've always saw the talent. Whenever we would have that drafting divisions thing and, when it was kind of clear that like David and myself, and I guess, I don't know if Rob was established yet, where we remember we did draft divisions and they asked me, who would you pick? My answer was always Brian Bonney because the kid doesn't go for any upside. He doesn't trade. And then everybody was like, wow, you're leaving Harsh on the board. I said, I don't want this kid in my league. I've seen how he drafts, and one of these years the lottery is going to hit. Well, ladies and gentlemen, swing for the fences because he is now officially in the Super Bowl. I am not shocked at all. I am more afraid of the guy who's, if you're telling me there's a team whose upside is wild card, and then you have a team that say, okay, so how about this team? I don't know, man. It could go wrong or it could go right. Give me the team that's just going to go to the wild card. I'll face him. I don't want the unknown. And Harsh, finally, buddy, and your drafts have been very good the last few years as well. So you're on the come up. Let's get into it. Hopefully, if this drags on, it's fine. It's a Super Bowl, so it's supposed to be meant. We have a very wow. Oh no, wait a minute. Okay. Harsh roster. I was about to say this is a close matchup, but Harsh didn't set up his full roster. Well, I talked about it. The playoff MVP so far, Jalen Hurts taking on Aaron Rodgers. So these are 2 guys that were good management decisions by both of you. One of you went out to acquire Aaron Rodgers. The other one, finally, that Achilles heel you had all season was quarterback, and you got Jalen Hurts. So the way I break this down, Jalen Hurts going into Dallas, this is a great matchup. Dallas is a fast-paced team as well. Jalen Hurts looks like he's in a good prime spot. Jalen Hurts only projected, what is that? 23.27. With a league that's a 6-point passing touchdown league, I'd go a little bit over. Aaron Rodgers, though, in a very, very dangerous spot Sunday night, too. Oh, man, you're going to have to sweat this out on a Sunday night. 28 points against Tennessee at home. Well, Tennessee's defense gives up some explosive plays, and they have an explosive receiver in Davante Adams. This looks like Aaron Rodgers could be, chucking it all day long, especially when the Titans just don't generate any pass rush. If they do, it's because they're sending like 6 to 7. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I gotta bite my tongue with this though, because Jalen Hurts has been very good floor play. That's funny. I said foreplay. I meant floor play, not foreplay. Jalen Hurts will get 25, and Aaron Rodgers though I think is in for a big performance against Tennessee. I'm gonna say 35. Calvin Ridley, Cole Beasley, Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams. Well, we rave over this combination. Oh my goodness. Not only is this the best combination that you could possibly have, they both have mouth-watering matchups. You have Davante Adams against Tennessee and Tyreek Hill against Atlanta. Yeah, I know you're probably listening to this right now. Don't jinx it. I'm sorry, brother. Tyreek Hill against Atlanta. Sign me up. Davante Adams against Tennessee after not doing anything last week. Sign me up. What do I think their upside could be, these two combined? I would not be at all shocked. I'm not saying it's going to happen, so this is not a jinx call. I would not be at all shocked if these two combined for 60 points. These matchups dictate that. Because look at the side of the ball, and it helps Aaron Rodgers a little bit, but look at how Tennessee plays fast pace. Green Bay likes to control at their own pace, their own tempo. My only concern with the Green Bay script, which it affects Harsh more than it does BMagic, because BMagic has the other piece, is if they control the game early and Tennessee can't score early, they're going to ride not the ground game, but they're going to control the pace of play of the game, and I don't think it's going to be that high up. But I don't expect Aaron Rodgers to press down on the brakes a little bit, and that's because Tennessee has come back a lot when they're from behind. So I absolutely love this combo. I don't want to sleep on Cole Beasley and Calvin Ridley. Beasley against New England, well, my guess is they try to take out Stephon Diggs, but Gilmore got hurt. Beasley should be open underneath. I think you're going to see a lot of deep zones by New England, which is going to suck because Beasley could wind up with a weird stat line of, 9 to 60 or something like that. Calvin Ridley has looked good against Kansas City. Is he going to get open? Well, I still haven't seen much from this Kansas City defense in the last few weeks. So if Matt Ryan is going to have all the time in the world, yeah, but if he gets pressured, Tampa Bay couldn't get to him last week and he looked good. Granted, that was in a dome. I know a lot of people are big on Calvin Ridley this week, and rightfully so. He's looked great. The fact that they're playing outdoors, if Calvin Ridley does it, it's going to be in garbage time. I know that doesn't count. That's kind of a cop-out, but I don't see any way how Kansas City and Atlanta becomes competitive. I think that Matt Ryan's going to have to drive down late. So I think now that I'm envisioning how the game is going to go, I think a garbage time touchdown for Calvin Ridley in the fourth quarter really, I don't want to say salvage his day because that means like he gets 13 points. But I do think it puts him in that like weird 17 to 20 range. I know he's been really good the last 2 weeks, and he almost had 2 touchdowns last week. I'll say 17 to 20. Not bad. You'll take it, but I got to clearly go Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams. Okay, here's where things get interesting. So Jonathan Taylor, Jeff Wilson, league winner Jeff Wilson, baby. So Mostert is on IR, and he's by far not – like he is the true handcuff here, even for next year, depending on what they do. Wilson gets Arizona, and he plays on a Saturday. It's not a bad matchup. CJ Beathard is going to play. The offense to me looks different. I feel like Mullins stays in the Garoppolo playbook. Beathard, for whatever reason, I feel like stays in shotgun a lot more. Maybe that was just a one-year thing, but I do remember him and Marquise Goodwin like a few years back. Look, quarterback situation doesn't matter in San Francisco. They'll find opening running lanes. And again, it's Arizona. Like, they haven't been great. And I know I sound like a broken record. fast-paced offense is only going to be the thing with Jeff Wilson, though, is yes, he's going to be a volume guy, but he needs those running, like he needs touchdowns usually to salvage his days. Jeff Wilson projected at 13. You know, that's a fair projection. I'll say 6. Okay, yeah, 16 because it is the Cardinals, so I'll factor that in. Jonathan Taylor against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh on a 3-game losing streak. They're still very good against the run, which makes me a little bit concerned for Jonathan Taylor. This is not a bold call by any means. Jonathan Taylor is probably going to have 13 carries for 54 yards and a touch. So it's kind of like what he was in like beginning of the year. So like 11 to 12, I guess. Aaron Jones looks like in a great spot against Tennessee, especially if the game script, like if they get out to a huge lead, they're going to ride on him very early. This is interesting because Ezekiel Elliott, if he plays or doesn't play, and then you got the Tony Pollard factor on the harsh side, which is the ultimate counterpunch. They're against Philly. Take it for how you want. Philly's run defense, I know, was always scary in the past. There's some games where they look very suspect, though, so I'm not saying that he's a bust, but bottom line is this. If Zeke Elliott winds up playing, I don't like the guy. Sorry, he's just stupid. I'm not stupid, but I'm not a big fan of him in this matchup regardless. But it's tough because I feel like the volume is guaranteed. I'm going to have to go draw. Ezekiel Elliott makes me nervous if he plays. I don't like him. Aaron Jones I like. Jonathan Taylor I'm a little nervous about. And Wilson, so I'll say draw. I don't have a clean lean on that one. It's BMagic, because he has the quarterback too. It's all game script dependent for him. Darren Waller versus Gronk. Gronk will score in this game. Darren Waller makes me a tad bit nervous because he exploded. Marcus Mariota, I think Flores is kind of mini Belichick. They're going to take out something. But Xavier Howard doesn't shadow. Byron Jones isn't even really that good. They should be susceptible over the tight end, and logically, but if they go to a zone coverage, I've seen games where they bracket towards Waller and he doesn't do anything. That makes me a little bit nervous. And I love Darren Waller, so I can't pick against him. Okay. Emmanuel Sanders without Michael Thomas against Minnesota on Christmas. T.Y. Hilton against Pitt. Those are some interesting matchups. So Sanders is like basically used as a deep threat role. Traquan Smith got hurt again. You know, the volume's going to be there. So I honestly, in Minnesota is not very good. The last flex for Harsh becomes, yikes. Okay, so I don't know what you're going to do with James Robinson. Salvon Ahmed, the only way he becomes a starter is if Gaskin was to get ruled out. Because it is a great matchup for Salvon Ahmed. And then you have the Pollard factor. So I think Harsh is probably going to wait till Sunday to decide that. I can't envision him going Ahmed and the last flex early on because you never know what's going to happen. But it'll be interesting to see. Let's say Robinson gets ruled out and Zeke is in. I'm interested to see how he goes that last flex. My guess is that it would still be Pollard because he likes him. I don't know. Robinson's health, though, is going to be a big factor. A.J. Brown, I'm a little nervous about. Not gonna sugarcoat it here. A.J. Brown, I'm a little bit nervous about. I like A.J. Brown. This is not me saying Corey Davis is better. I never said that, Harsh. I said Corey Davis is a very underrated receiver, and he's not as bad as people thought he was because he's actually a very good receiver. A.J. Brown is a good receiver. My problem with A.J. Brown, there's this man called Jair Alexander who's been absolutely amazing this year. There were games where I looked and I said, you know what? I always knew he was on that second. He was like the come-up next elite corner. Could he actually obtain that, though? We're seeing it here this year. And he's been absolutely phenomenal. First of all, I don't know why they put him on Robbie Anderson, and because you saw what DJ Moore did. He ate up that Packers defense. So A.J. Brown against Jair Alexander scares me a little bit, because I think you're going to get a similar performance of what A.J. Brown did last week. Like, his upside should be like 20 plus any given week, but I have to factor in Jair Alexander because A.J. Brown, you know, he's not a guy who beats you with his route tree choice. Like, the corner is not saying to himself, okay, what's he going to run on me now? A lot of his routes are the same, and they're very kind of predictable. He's just so good at doing it. Like, him and Metcalf, like, they don't run a lot of routes. Like, they do post, they do slants. A.J. Brown, the one thing I do like about A.J. Brown at times, if given the right coverage, though, the double moves against zone, like, you're seeing these guys that if they twitch just a little bit and the cornerback bites, he's got blazing speed. So it's just something I wanted to factor in. Because I don't know who Harsh is coming in. So here's how I'm going to project it. If Robinson's in, I still got to go with my man Harsh because of the Robinson volume. Robinson's out. I honestly think, and if Robinson's out with Zeke playing, I would say that it's a draw because A.J. Brown, I do think, might be in some trouble, and I don't know the guaranteed workload. So things kind of get a little weird. I don't know how else to explain it. Dallas and Tampa, Dallas and Tampa, Dallas and Tampa, Dallas and Tampa. So you're going back with this Dallas defense again, BMagic. Congratulations. Tampa against Detroit. Well, there's a COVID outbreak in Detroit now, so I don't know who's allowed to play, who's not allowed to play. Yeah, I don't know about this. I'll go Tampa. I'll go Tampa Bay. All right, I gotta say it. I don't even want to give keys to victory because, like, I said this. I knew it was gonna happen at one point. BMagic, sometimes, buddy. Congratulations for making it this far, bro. And I think, you've overcome a lot of adversity this year. So I can't. Nobody hates you at all. I think it's just more of like everybody says to themselves, why can't my team get as lucky as him? The old saying goes, everybody's luck runs out sometimes, and I do think that's what you're going to see here. The Super Bowl in the modern era, my comparison would be Pittsburgh versus Seattle, because that one thing you have, like, Pittsburgh kept getting lucky and on that run, and that's what happened with BMagic. And then you have Seattle, which was like clear-cut dominant team, right? That's what we have with Harsh. But I think the outcome gets reversed. I'd actually go Harsh. So on Monday, because I think there's a Monday night game that has to decide this outcome, if I'm not mistaken, we will then finally be announcing the first-time champion, Harsh Gaddini, and honestly, very happy for the kid.